Welcome to Raiders of the Lost Art, episode 21. My name is Finbar, and this is Ross Robinson, The Architecture of Intensity. So, episode 21, so far in this series, we've covered a bunch of stuff, and I've met a ton of great people. Some new friends, some old friends. Ross has been a friend of mine for quite a long time now, and he's you may know of some of his work from Korn, Slipknot, Sepultura, Skrillex, the list goes on and on and on. He's one of the world's most recognized music producers. So Ross has this innate ability to sort of understand different dimensions in life. And what he's really, really great at doing is being able to sort of synthesize these dimensions into capturing energy, capturing intensity, and really turning that into a product that actually translates with an audience. So I caught up with Ross earlier and, we had an amazing conversation about this. So without further ado, let's get into it. Messed up enough? Yeah, all right. So Ross, so great to see you, mate. Great. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. It's so great to see your face again.
You too.
Sorry, I'm just messing up my hair to make sure it looks crazy enough. So
you look amazing.
Yeah, thanks, bud. Thanks. So look, Ross, it's so great to have you on the show. I really wanted to flesh out today the art of a producer, what you do, how you work. And so I just thought, if we could do that, it might sort of give people a bit of an inside look into, how you've worked with some of these incredible bands and how you've cultivated them to world success. So let's start. So how did you start? How did you actually get into this whole gig?
I got into it by being a guitar player, and before that, racing motocross as a kid, it created a hunger for the extreme. And so, after, accident after accident, my parents took me off when I was about 12, and I was racing, minis, and just, it was my identity and everything. So the only thing that matched that feeling of violence, I guess, is a guitar, and for me, and it just, I would have dreams at night, like dirt bikes, guitar is the same thing, it's like it's the same expression. It's balance, gravity, structure. It takes tons and tons of work, but the payoff is just danger. And so so I was always attracted to the most extreme music I can find, throughout my childhood, extreme in that it drew emotion, things that pulled my heartstrings was my thing. It wasn't necessarily like, oh, this is fun, happy music, and I like this. It wasn't about that for me. It was always a real connection to my heart opening up, and feeling understood, and through lyrics, and experiencing infatuation with a girl, and like there'll be a song that will make sense all of a sudden, and I didn't have to, those feelings that a kid doesn't normally attach to with a parent or a teacher or whoever. You just keep them to yourself. You have your closest friend, which is the music that was there for me, So that vibe of extreme and heart opening and lyric and connection carried on into what evolved into producing. And in bands, it was always like I kind of felt like I depended on other people, and it was never quite right. It was never right, to bands are difficult.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, like with technology, kids are able to become fabulous with their creativity and just be solo and show up with a laptop. And, I think if I had that opportunity with technology, I would have probably gone that route as well, because it's an expression,
Yeah.
music. And so, you know, the band broke up, then another band broke up, and then finally the last dude that I was connected to got a gig, and I started working for free at a recording studio and learning how, and that's where I learned what not to do,
Yeah.
mostly.
Yeah.
And I learned heavy studio etiquette, and I learned, like, I was in there early enough, like in the late 80s, to hear people talk about this word vibe, and it's like, oh, the vibe is so good, with this and with that, or the vibe sucked, and I was like, what the fuck is vibe? you know and and it's like, oh, it's that thing, the unspeakable, the only thing that's real, the truth, the feeling behind the feeling, the essence of life is invisible, and it lasts forever, and it recreates itself, and it's what we are. And you take the mind away, and you're left with vibe.
Mm.
Yeah, essence.
Mm.
And so when I started producing, um, I made a album with a band from Bakersfield that was friends with the Korn guys. Uh, Jonathan grew up with the key with everybody grew up together over there, but he lived with the keyboard player, and it was this really cool gothy thing. And um, they weren't Korn, they weren't that badass, but they were really good. And then at 28, I made the Korn record. But leading up to that, letting go of guitar, not knowing what's going to happen, and all of that stuff, I felt like scared, and um, you know, just broke, all
Yeah.
of that stuff,
Yeah.
that a hungry musician goes through. You don't know what's going to happen, and that empathy and that feeling stays in me this whole time. So my hours, I can burn, because I know that feeling, how treacherous it is, and I want to provide the very, very best of what the person is that I'm working with. I want to provide the very best expression, the most raw, the most real expression possible, um, uh, for them, in order to have a future. So I think that empathy is really important for production of whatever format you're recording. Not fear, but just a real care and understanding of what it is that people may be suffering through. And having come from that world, I can be an example for the people that need that extra little push, of everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay, no matter what. And even if they don't make it, like, the the process is for me the goal. In that every moment, just plugging a microphone in, or turning a guitar amp on, just that sound of the click of a Marshall is God. Just
Mm.
that fucking, the way that that little piece of plastic feels like that's part of making a fucking record.
Mm.
Or walking across the street to get a coffee during the album, I'll say, what are we doing right now? And they better answer with, we're making a fucking record.
Yeah.
Just walking.
But
you
see,
know
to me, Ross, I think there's something really super amazing in what you're telling what you're replaying. And for me, as someone who's I can get lost in the technical side of things. To be able to understand vibe and
mm,
understand emotion and raw and energy, and it's another level. It's another dimension in the capture. It's like you're squeezing something out of the lemon. You can look at it and go, oh yeah, I'll write a song and it's got this structure and it's got this chorus and this verse. Since I've known you for a while, and you've always had this like that level where it's just there's a whole dimension which you're tapping into, and you seem to be able to extract that out of the artists. And to me, that's like a big part of the whole Ross Robinson of you. It's this ability to get that and understand that level, and to be able to sort of work with someone and go beyond the song and the technique and it's about how does it all come together and what does it say, the music. And I don't know, does that resonate with you? Or
Absolutely. I, the there's nothing more beautiful than hunger, and also there's nothing more beautiful with hunger with conviction, and and the what we do, I think the more raw the performance, the more you get to see the multi-dimensional being beyond the body of
yeah,
what's just blazing. Like, I read that this is, you can probably blow my head off with this kind of stuff, but I just read that each atom in our body is over 1 billion years old. So we're made of only atoms, correct? And so we're billions of years old of knowledge and of that thing, and when we tap into it, it's like we get off of the mind and into what we truly are, billions of years of eternal knowledge. Like, it's all there. And when you tap into that chill factor, into that thing, the world is so grateful. They're so grateful. And it's easier when, I think, with dudes pulsing together and slamming, just slamming. And
yeah, because I
it,
think there's the atoms and the knowledge and the history, but there's everyone's resonating at a certain frequency. Everything has its own frequency, and when you push
mm,
them together and you amplify these frequencies,
mm,
something magical happens when energies collide with energies. And it's just you seem
yeah,
to get that, whereas a lot of people I've worked with, producers and stuff, are like are much more about the technique, which is fine, and that's great, but it's the techniques, the bits. It's sort of, to me, it sounds like that's the recipe book of like, oh, you do this and then check that, and you add 3 bits of salt, and then that's your soup, and that makes. But there's something more than that. It's the collision of the stuff, and how you add a little bit more, it changes the spice, or it seems to be. But knowing that, how did you learn that, Ross? Like, you've gone from how did
it's
you
a
develop this skill to be able to see or put that together?
um, wanting to die from an eating disorder.
Right. Okay. Okay.
And putting my head on the floor and asking for help, and all of a sudden it was lifted. So I discovered that I asked midair nothingness for help, and I feel those atoms that were just waiting to be asked and noticed, to tap into something other than what I think and what I believe.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I
So
do.
going into the unknown, and into the beauty of the infinite, basically.
That's
And
just
it's
so amazing. It is like I am a big proponent for this thing, trying to get people to understand the power of different and the power of fear. And the fear comes from unknown, and unknown is where the greatest hacks lie. Because you could be working really, really hard and trying to hone your skill and but you're in a red ocean of everyone doing that. But just trying to take an understanding of fear and different, and just being able to be comfortable in that space is where a monstrous amount of energy can come from if you allow it. But a lot of
yeah.
people think I'm completely insane in talking about that because they've been conditioned to think that's bad because I don't understand it. It's like, yeah, but if you can get past that, it's so powerful.
Yeah, anything other than that is control,
Yeah.
and when we control, we just repeat what we already know or what we've already heard. As you know, as a guitar player, you can play an Eric Clapton riff, or Eric Clapton can play the slide on Layla while he's in love. What is it, George Harrison's chick? Dying on heroin. And he's just like, and it just that it's just ah. So I'm always, I'm always, it takes those kinds of like burning, selfless. This is who I am. I'm exposing myself. That's why I always get into the the mental surgery of the lyrics, so everybody knows why they're doing a song, and then we find, it's usually musicians are so dark. It's like, this fucking happened to me. It's like, why is this the greatest thing that ever happened to you? And then like a breakthrough could happen during those talks, or like just a chill or something. Then I'm like, all right, let's start.
Yeah.
you know and and it becomes an expression of something healing and more heavy than heavy, because there's a fearlessness to feel the feelings when you're supported and
Mm,
listened to.
mm.
Yeah. And
So Ross, do you have a process? And I know you probably don't because it just changes based on energy. But if you could boil it down, do you mentor? Do you sit with the group before you work with them? And do you just like a coach? Do you get them all amped up and psyched up before they start recording, or do you just let it happen and then just iterate as you're going? Or
um we um basically the process is get the gear, pick it out, set it up, get good scratch tones for the guitar and bass, get the drums really sounding good. And um, I'll usually have two sets of toms and an extra snare for practice. And then, so I don't blow out the drum heads on the drums, and get the dudes warmed up. And then when I feel it's like together, like slamming after we do changes, beat changes, maybe cut parts, add things, create parts. Just I just like to feel the balance of the song and like kind of feel the vocal. Don't sing too hard on these, so I can just feel where the song is and really get to know the song, and then all the voices come up and the cravings come up, and then all of that happens. And then when it feels like, oh shit, yeah, you can get a normal take, I'll do the mental surgery and burn them,
right.
burn their brains out. And so they have a real purpose, a, a distinctive purpose. It's like, there's a way to that science has come up with a way to figure out the genes of a cancerous tumor and work on that specific spot and that specific tumor with a specific serum that goes right at that spot. So why would you play a song with no direction? Like I kind of want to create a serum to go into, if it's a terrible subject, just the cancerous tumor, to heal it,
Yeah. Yeah.
And normally the subject matter of some of the happiest songs you've ever heard have been just
Dark,
life
nasty.
so dark. Like we love dark, but
Yeah.
I want to go there. If they sing about it, like everybody has to go there, and that's probably why I don't do a lot of continuous albums with the same band. Because it's so tough. The process is
Right.
grueling, and it's like, why do I have to go through all these feelings? This is so tough, and but the end result is the songs usually end up sounding and feeling completely different than what you would expect, like on a whole other level. And it's so rewarding, so rewarding. I don't know if that answers the question.
Oh, look, it does. It's sort of, it's again, I think is this, to me, you're a multi-dimensional architect of art. And that's why I'm calling this the architect of artistry. Really, it's people look at a song, as a thing, as a piece of music, but to connect that piece of music with someone else who wants to listen to it, you're really working the surgery as well as the music, and that is how the emotion transcribes and how you're capturing the best, and how you then synthesize that into an emotion where the listener connects emotionally rather than just musically. And I think that's sort of, again, someone who knows you as a mate, and just from the years of knowing what you do, it's just, to me, that seems to be where you're really, really strong and really, really unique, that you get that.
Thanks.
And a lot of people don't get that because they come through a school, or they go, I've done this and I've learned on this console and that, and I've got these barefoots and this, and then I'm running Pro Tools and job done. And it's like, well, then that's just the tools in the shed. That's got nothing to do with the capturing the art.
Yeah. You know what I mean? I always have an engineer I work with, the engineers, I put them through hell in that, it's just like, press record, and they're like, oh, they have to be fast and like ready for me, they're good at,
yeah, because you're hearing the emotion, right? So you're like, get it, got to capture it.
Yeah, let's go. But blah, 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 blah. I don't care.
You should get them Ross cancelling headphones for when they're not working with you.
Yeah. It's just like, if it's not totally right and we capture an insane performance, it's so much better than like this incredible feeling of like, breathlessness, and they're about to play. If you go, no, let's change a drum head because that one's not quite right.
Oh God, yeah.
It's like they go and they leave and they get a coffee or they do this or that, and like we come back and it fucking sucks.
Yeah.
I don't care about the drum head.
Yeah.
I'll do what I can, as a pro to make it, bulletproof and wildly ready, but it's just, if it's not perfect, I don't care at all. I mean, people can hear terrible mistakes in my recordings, but
it's not about that, right? It's actually not about that. Yeah.
No. It's just, it's just perfection being imperfect.
So Ross, when you finish a project, like, you must be totally exhausted, right? Like you're trying to understand and capture this emotion. You're trying to get all the band to actually resonate on the same level as what you're trying to capture and get them up to speed. That must be so draining to try and not only get what's in capture what you want, but to try and architect other people to get them to all work together and to get that performance out of them, even when they're probably arguing with you, thinking, we want to do it this way. Do you have to recuperate after doing something like this? Is it sort of, or can you just go straight into
Yeah.
another?
Well, what I do is I never argue. Um, and I always let the artist have the last word, and I let them know that I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea. You're going to get me in the raw in the moment, and if something needs to go a different way, I'm super stoked to do it, and we'll get the best of that. Don't even worry. And 99% of the time it's a easy flow where we try everything, and usually the worst idea turns into the greatest idea because it inspires another one and then another one and another one. But yeah, the process, it's really, really intense. But if you're in the flow, it actually youths you rather than
Right. Okay.
tires you.
Okay.
But there have been times where, you know, early on, I was like a little, I would say, a need to please,
Right.
want to do a great job and wanted to be better than I was maybe in my head. So I would battle with that, and now I know that my best is me raw and not to question it and to
Mm.
be super flexible and no, I don't know,
Wow.
and yeah.
That's so powerful right there. It's just because, like I think society tells everyone you got to be an expert and you got to this and you got to project this and it's that projection. And then if someone doesn't agree with you, no, I've got to do it this way and I've got to, and especially from a producer's point of view, the amount
Yeah.
of producers I've worked with, which are like, no, it's got to be this way or the highway. And you're just like, okay, but just hearing your way, it's like, it seems to be you're caressing their ego to be able to sort of get that ego into a place where it can deliver. Whether that, and that's the art also in getting the actual what you're looking for is helping them find it by not getting to be offside with you. It's like it's genius.
Well, the ego just wants to be heard. It doesn't really want its way.
Hmm.
The ego is afraid, and it wants to be seen. And once it feels loved and seen, and that's not kissing ass or anything like that. It's just holding a high ground to and seeing the very best in the people that you're working with, and seeing beyond their limitations, and that real love for the person you're in front of is it disintegrates the ego, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden you get that person's expression in the raw,
Mm.
just raw. There's
Yeah.
no fronting. There's no. It's not
Well, they don't
girls,
have to be
girls,
afraid
girls
anymore,
in my
right? They don't
world.
have to project anymore because they're comfortable because you've made them comfortable.
Yeah, yeah. It's there's no want, there's no expectation. It's just seeing through all the gnarly, and just seeing the perfection and the beauty of that expression in front of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
But
awesome.
obviously, if I'm working with somebody I don't really like what they do, which is pretty damn rare,
Mm.
I hardly ever get into a situation like that. Um, but I've been lucky to really appreciate and love who I'm working with, their art, their music. Yeah.
So Ross, on that, like what you know I'm trying to figure out how best to sort of put this question forward, but like because it's a reflection of me. It's like, how do you keep fresh? Like, how do you not get like, oh, like I'm just burnt out with this music? It's like I remember sitting in the Redbury. You came over, and you were talking at the early stage of dubstep, and you were talking about Skrillex and how you were at this festival and you were hearing this new music and you were beaming. You're like you had this energy about you, and I'm just like, dude, what's this? And you were trying to explain what dubstep was, and I'd never heard of it. And it was like, and then you start doing the Skrillex stuff, and I'm just like, wow. And it was so heavy metal electronica. It was like, yeah, as soon as I heard it, I was like, it took me back to that hotel room when you were explaining it to me. I'm just like, how does Ross find this stuff? Like, how do
Oh,
you?
that was I recorded Sonny in his band, and he became Skrillex. So he's a really, really good friend, somebody that I love deeply beyond, music or anything like that. It's just he's my brother,
Mm,
I love him. And so you were seeing I don't know, like kind of like I was so happy for him.
mm,
Like he recreated, well, he was the forefront of a whole genre, and yeah, I was very excited for him.
mm.
It was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. Just the beginning of it was just, oh God, seeing my little buddy just, God,
Smashing it.
yeah, I love the fact that I can get to see that and be close, you know?
But it was also like that. The EDM scene was so standardized and
Hmm.
so okay, everything sounds the same, and yeah, there's good stuff, don't get me wrong, and it's all, there's the
Sure.
drop and there's this and there's that and everything sounds good. And then along came this thing which just fused the attitude of, to me anyway, the attitude of rock and raw energy with electronica. It was sort of like going back to Lasig Bandhaus and all this early German stuff, which was very
Hmm.
hard and
Hmm.
represented that sort of thing, and I don't know, at least I'm talking about for me, but when you were beaming on that too, you had your own energy about it, which was, people think I'm quite energetic, but but your energy was just beaming off on me, and I'm like, oh man, people tell me, oh, you got to hear this and you got to hear that, but I don't know, your energy was like, it's got to be amazing because you know what I mean, like it was more
Yeah, yeah,
of a
yeah.
connection than you telling me how good it was. You were telling me how good it was, even if you didn't say anything, type thing.
Yeah, I just I just love that guy so much, and yeah, the it's funny like when a music becomes so popular and becomes just overdone. It's on every TV, radio ad, theme song, like car
Yeah, yeah,
cartoons and movies. It's just like, oh, you know, it's,
yeah,
as
yeah.
soon as it's that popular, I always feel like, I'm over it, But I, he's still, God, man, he's incredible. He's still just burning it.
Yeah. So how do you
It's
find
just,
how do you find stuff, Ross? Do people send you things, or do you hear just through the trap? Someone goes, "Go and check this out." Do you still go and look for stuff, or
um, well, like I have this thing inside of me that knows to move when I hear 5 seconds of something really great, or kind of get a glimpse. Something touches me. All I need is 5 seconds, and I'm like, I'll make it, um, or attempt to make it go down. And so, mainly with new music, so I was working with Ghostmain um, in the spring, and he said, I want to take bands like this on tour, and he played like 5 seconds of something, and I'm like, and they only had like a couple thousand followers, and I'm just like, Oh, so that day I secured a record deal, like a distribution through a great record company, and um, got them all down to do it. And the next day I go, Eric, Ghost Man, I go, dude, you want to do a label together? He's like, yeah, I've always wanted to do that. I'm like, all right, let's do it. And that band you played, they're the first one. Oh, fuck yeah, I'll take them on tour. I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. And
Mm.
this, you know, so we're still chasing that band, and they're gonna make a decision in towards the end of this month.
Right.
So in between then, he posted something online, and he's got like 2 million followers or something. And then I'm like, dude, take that down.
It's not done yet.
Too late. Now there's like all these like fuck, all these labels. Everybody
Oh,
wants them
right.
now. It's just like, God dang it. But I what we have to offer is so sweet. I
Yeah.
think that it's all about the artist, supporting the artist, as far as the back end, and
Mm.
it's a deal that nobody's ever gotten, especially a band that size.
Right.
And so we'll see what happens with it. But that's kind of how you do it. Like 5 seconds, tick, 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 tick,
Right. Yeah.
and then hopefully we're slamming in the underneath microphone soon.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
that's what happened with Slipknot, Limp Bizkit. The Korn guys took us a year and a half, but I didn't have the connections that I do now. So
right. So
um,
when you did like the Limp Bizkit stuff, was that stuff that you developed them, right? And then you put them onto Interscope, or like how did that all work?
um, so
Because you were working there, right? Or
Fred Fred got Fred got my phone number from the bass player in Korn, and he started calling me up every day. And I'm just like, dude, why'd you give that guy my phone number? He just came. And so a cassette came in, and my girlfriend listened to it and said, "You need to hear this." And I listened to it while I took a shower in my little. I was living in a little room. It was like after the first Korn record, and we made that record for like $14,000, and
right.
I didn't, you know, I was broke as hell, and so it was just like nothing had happened yet with them. They were just kind of getting going, and so when I heard it, I was just like, oh shit, and I played it for my manager. I go, I want to get it a record deal. We got a record deal instantly, um, and it was with No Doubt's label,
Right.
and then God, I did the Sepultura record already too,
Right.
so I had a little juice. Like both were really successful at that time, so
Right.
that I take that back. I was definitely becoming like a sort of a buzz, and so that's how we got Limp super. It was like, oh
Amped.
shit,
Yeah.
what is this? And uh, we started the record. Fred decided he didn't want to be on that label. He wanted to be on Interscope.
Right.
So a friend of his, Jordan Shore, who had Flip Records, who later became the president of Geffen for a little while, but he had a little label. God, I'm bouncing around. He had a little label, and he was chasing Fred the whole time and just basically supporting him, giving him money the whole time. Even when he signed to the other label, he would never give up. And then Fred got off the label I got him hooked up to. Went back to Flip with Jordan. Jordan owned the contract, and then Fred, while we were recording the record, the band started getting a really big buzz. And no, it's who's Ross recording? Wow, this and that. And like all of a sudden there's like this, industry buzz around it, and this little unknown independent label with no distribution. Maybe they had distribution, I don't know. But Fred goes, I want to be on Interscope Records. And I guess, I don't know, Helmet and Nine Inch Nails were on it.
Yeah.
Maybe Marilyn Manson was out at the time. And Fred goes, okay. Jordan goes, okay, and sold a huge portion of his contract to Interscope for pennies and of what it was worth. He lost millions and millions of dollars off of that little craving of Fred's. So much
Wow.
money. I can't even believe it. Ugh. And yeah, so
That's that.
history was made, and they're playing Lollapalooza today.
Oh,
They just
really?
played. Yeah, I saw a little bit of it, and it's actually trending on Twitter.
Wow.
Limp Bizkit,
Yeah. Well, I haven't.
dude.
I did the band with John, right? Like the Stereochemics thing. I haven't.
Oh, no
Did,
way,
yeah, I did a band with John, and that's when I first
Sam.
met Moke. Actually, I did this band called
Oh,
Stereochemics, and John Otto was in it, and CK Jones and a guy from New York. So I was in Paris at the
no
time, and they
way.
rang me up and said, "Do you want to come and jam in LA?" And I was like, "Hell yeah!" So I just jumped a plane, and we sort of did an album in Eagle Rock, actually, out there, and yeah, it was good. That's how I first hooked up with John. So he was,
John wasn't playing today.
wasn't he? Right. Okay.
No, some kid.
Right. Oh well,
I don't
it's
like that.
I hope he's doing okay because
Yeah,
anyway,
it's not cool, man.
no, anyway,
Hopefully, they
well,
always have a place open for him if
yeah,
he's. I don't
yeah.
know what.
Well, let's hope he sort of he gets back on the into the
Yeah,
vibe with them. So, well, mate, it's so good to catch up with you, Ross. It's just awesome, man. It's been way too long. Obviously, the COVID thing. I haven't been able to get back to LA, but next when I do, I'll be straight on the phone to you and love to catch up, and we can go for another mountain bike. You can take me down a cliff again.
all right.
Yeah, nearly
Get another
killing.
great photo up.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Ross. Well, thanks for your time today, buddy. I really appreciate it, and yeah, and look forward to catching up real soon.
Right on, brother.
Thanks, bud. Really appreciate it, bud.